legal advisory group of the International Tribunal into Crimes of Church and State. Over the past month, we have established that a criminal conspiracy exists to defame and discredit Kevin Annett and destroy the work of our tribunal in order to protect those responsible for the rape, torture, and murder of innocent children. This conspiracy includes, but is not restricted to, agents of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police and their E-Division in Vancouver, headed by Inspector Peter Montague, as well as 2 staff members of the state-funded Vancouver Co-op Radio. Now, we received a signed affidavit from a woman hired by the RCMP to frame Kevin Annett on a false charge on the premises of Co-op Radio on July 20th, and she did so in unison with an actor who was made up to impersonate Kevin. We received this letter in October, and recently we issued a demand letter to the board and staff of Vancouver Co-op Radio, which insisted that the staff and board members cease their public defamation of Kevin and restore him to the airwaves of Co-op Radio, on the grounds that the fabrication of this incident that was used to justify his banning from the station has now been exposed. But neither board nor staff nor their lawyer have replied to our demand. Accordingly, we are now prepared to charge Vancouver Co-op Radio and the RCMP with criminal conspiracy and defamation. We do so in order to expose this kind of dirty tricks campaign against those like Kevin Annett who are working to bring to justice the churches and governments responsible for crimes against humanity. We will be commencing these charges and litigation not only within domestic and international courts, but at the first session of our tribunal in London, England, during the week of April 4th to 8th, 2011. This week, we will be issuing a public summons to Vancouver Co-op Radio employees and directors and to officers of the RCMP, instructing them to appear at this tribunal to answer charges. Please be advised that any programmer or volunteer at Vancouver Co-op Radio who continues to disseminate untrue and defamatory statements regarding Kevin Annett over the airwaves, or by email, orally, or through any other medium, will be named and included in this legal action, and will be summoned to our tribunal. And be further advised that this legal action will include and name senior officials of the United Church of Canada and the Roman Catholic Church who are also implicated in this criminal conspiracy. This action is monitored and supported by human rights, media, and governmental bodies associated with the European Union, as well as groups in Ireland, England, Australia, Italy, the United States, and Thailand. We urge all victims of church and state terror to support our effort to protect those who are working to expose child trafficking and genocide from such dirty tricks and other subversion by state operatives. Please circulate this notice and this announcement. It is signed Kevin D. Annett in Vancouver and Dr. Sergio Rossi in Parma, Italy, on behalf of the International Tribunal into Crimes of Church and State, based in London. For more information, follow our website at www.hiddenfromhistory.org. Thank you.
All right, folks, that was Kevin Annett of hiddenfromhistory.org. You can get all the information on the latest that's been going on with him. He's just been getting raked over the coals. And it was good to see that they're actually going forward with some litigation, especially anybody that doesn't know. Tune in on Thursday night because he'll be going over the latest on his fight against the Vatican and the atrocities to the Canadian Aboriginal people. But before we get to King's Court, I want to let Andrew have the floor for a second before he takes off. Go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, well, guys, thanks for having me on tonight, but I just wanted to let everybody in the audience know some people that are listening know who I am, some don't. But I fought in Afghanistan 2005, 2006, and you know what? With what I did, I was involved in combat several times, and there were multiple times that we arrested people and had to bring people in and interrogate. And you know what? It just really disturbs me, and it occurred to me as we've been having this conversation. We never treated anybody like this over there. Fighting the war on terror. We never treated anybody this lowly in my entire year over there. And I wanted the whole audience to be able to hear that so they could process it for themselves.
That really is heavy, man, when you think about it.
That's the truth, man. That's really, I knew who we were up there against, and I thought they were a certain thing, but you know what? We still never treated them like this, ever.
So, if folks, just bear that in mind as we talk about these things, these atrocities that are happening, and that's what it is. It really is when it comes down to it, and that is it. We don't treat the people in these supposed unsanctioned, unconstitutional wars overseas. We don't treat the enemy as bad as we treat our own citizenry going through these airports. So put that in the back of your mind as you go forward and say, well, maybe it's not so bad after all. Oh, yeah? Without further ado, folks, the King's Court is now in session. Go ahead, John.
Thanks, Joe. Yep, it looks like the web butt was right. Last night on Hannity, I saw Sarah Palin talking about her probable run for a 2012 presidency. A lot has been happening, so I thought I would consult the web butt again. So I went into the web butt throne room and sat down and pondered, and here's what transpired. South Korea wants tactical nukes back, and that's why North Korea did the bombing.
Oh, yeah?
They're sending a message to the South Korean government. Obama will be sending more troops and equipment to the Asian region. This will be a show of force not only to North Korea but to China, our debt masters. The U.S. economy will stabilize up until the first week of January when the end of the year totals will be released. This will serve as a catalyst for the February totals as a whole, as it will tell the tale, as thousands of people will go back to the unemployment rolls because their seasonal work will be over. The information to follow is sketchy at best due to the SARS parts that keep being released due to the public outcry. The TSA will alter their pat-down procedures only slightly. There is a 70% chance that a, quote, incident, unquote, will occur aboard a jet plane. This will be followed by a moderate burp as pressure is expelled, and the whole of the USA will get spanked. And the TSA and American government will say, I told you so, and will begin to violate American rights and liberties, and the American sheeple will sit down and take it. Fear and loathing in the airline industry. Congress will also ponder legislation to make airports constitution-free zones. The economy will stabilize, but only after more stimulus money is dumped into the system. Things will seem as though the contagion has been stopped, but Spain and Italy will be in dire straits, just to mention a few. I see Italy in April crying out for bailout, and the euro will begin its long death spiral as the other insolvent countries will be uncovered one by one, as an audit of the EU will take place by June, and of next year, the USA and the old EU will be daily occurrences, with riots as the EU will be insolvent. David Axelrod will be leaving the White House. The official reason is to spend time with family prior to heading up Obama's re-election. This is just one more rat that's jumping ship. Mid-July 2011, the IMF will hold an emergency session with several heads of state, and contracts will be signed as the emergence of the new NWO one world currency will begin to filter out through the news and into the pockets of the American people as well as the countries in the old EU. Back to you, Joe.
Well, geez, John, that's a whole lot to digest there, my man.
Well, yeah, when I sat down to consult the web, but it just spewed out a whole bunch of crap, and that's
crap.
What I wrote down.
It's crap. All right, so, folks, I was looking today at this S510, and I got to tell you, I'm going to put the link up in the chat room. And when I mirror this on YouTube, I'll be sure to put this in the videos, of course. But what I want to say is that there's a whole lot of talk about S510 making it illegal for you to grow gardens or to, say, grow food on your own and then give it to like grandma and grandpa after you grow it. Oh man, I got a ton of zucchini. Let me just give it to my coworkers and whatnot. Well, after consulting S510 and the name of S510 fork, let me bring that up so I can give you that, is the FDA Food Safety Modernization Act. And the way that you read these bills on govtrack.us is simply this. The first part of that whole bill is everything that is struck out of the bill. Okay, that means that it's no longer in the bill. That's why after each line it says struck out, struck out, struck out. Anything that was there, and I've seen it, that had to do with making it illegal to transfer your vegetables or whatever to your buddies, to your mother, your father, whoever, is struck out of the bill. It's gone. This S510, even though the FDA is another yet institution that we could definitely do away with, I'll tell you this: there's nothing in that bill, and anybody that wants to peruse it, please peruse it. And if you see it, then bring it to my attention. But I couldn't find anything in there that was in any way going to prevent people from growing gardens anymore. So again, if anybody sees anything like that, fine. But I don't think that should be a focal point right now. And I will leave that at that. But moving on, John, you've done a lot of research into this Crash J.P. Morgan thing. How's it going?
Oh man, my head's been buried in so much reading today. If I read one more word, my eyes are going to bleed, Joe. Here's some of the stats that I was able to come up with. And before I get into this, many of you out there may remember about 6 or 9 months ago, I had a program or an operation that I requested that people start that was go to your bank, draw out all your money, and leave enough in there just to keep the account active and to cover the bills that you may have written. And a lot of people said, well, that'll start a run on the banks and that'll crash the economy. And they poo-pooed that. But then Max Kaiser come up with the plan to buy one silver bar so that we would be able to crash J.P. Morgan. And you know what? According to Bloomberg, George Soros says that the gold bubble is expanding and that the derivatives bubble is about to pop. And there's another bubble that's not very well known, and that is the Treasury bubble. And that is 12 times that of the Internet bubble, 7 times bigger than the real estate bubble. And the last time the Treasury bubble popped was in 1976. Oil leapt threefold. Gold went up 6 times higher. The Dow Jones plummeted 28% and took 6 years to recover. Inflation went up 12% and almost devastated the economy. This is all going to happen once no buyers go to the market and buy bonds. The Fed will be forced to purchase them back, and that's exactly what they're doing right now. That will send the bonds and the dollar to crash, and hyperinflation will kick in. Warren Buffett himself recently said that the coming inflation will be double digits and much, much worse than that of 76. John Rogers of the famous Quantum Fund says we are facing an inflation holocaust. $13 trillion in stimulus packages here domestically and $9 trillion more for global stimulus.
John?
Gold and silver ratio clip that I'm going to be playing here in a second, guys, is from an internet YouTube user, Why Gold and Silver. And if you're really concerned about getting into the silver market, I just want to play this little clip for you to explain why silver is better than gold.
By 2006, we were down to 3 months. 3 months of above ground supplies compared to like 10 years normally. So silver is extremely rare. For the first time in human history, there is more gold for investors to buy than silver. That has never